Welcome, everybody. It is me, CyberWarrior. You're watching CyberWarriorStudios. This is Security Happy Hour. And once again, I have with me the host and creator of New Battlefields. I've got Eric Villardo, who is also the founder of Risis. And I think I'm going to have him on probably every week just because it's amazing having him on here. And then on top of that, I have with me today my guest, Adrian McNamara, where we're going to talk about is a career in cybersecurity right for you? And the reason this topic is really important is because with all the talk on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, just about everywhere you look right now in the sphere of cybersecurity, it's people trying to break in or decide if the career is actually right for them. So to get us started, Adrian, because I know you're newer to the field, let's first talk a little bit about what was your deciding factor about your change of career path into cybersecurity?
Sure. So, before I really even considered getting into the field, I was a communications consultant and kind of just in like doing communication stuff around the DC area. And I had just had like a really bad experience at an employer and found my way onto a contract for VA doing internal communications for the Chief Information Security Officer. While doing that, the WannaCry ransomware hit, and I was like, oh, wow, this is a really huge deal. Not that I didn't understand or know cybersecurity before, at least to a certain extent, but that was like the one, right? Everyone always talks about like the one that really got them into the field. That was kind of the one for me in 2017. And from then on, I was kind of trying to think, all right, how do I sort of make my way into the field, into getting more technical subject matter expertise? I kind of bopped around to different communications consultancies after that, but fortunately for me, I kept in touch with that CISO. He's actually a mentor of mine still today, and he kind of followed a similar path that I did. He got his undergraduate degree in international relations, and then found his way in tech. And I got my undergraduate degree in political science, and I'm like, well, how am I going to make this change? And he's really helped me a lot in terms of looking for opportunities, trying to find opportunities. And really cue in on things that might be out there. And so fortunately, about 3 years after I was working for him in that way, what ended up happening is there was an opening on the government side for a strategic planning person. And I said, well, my background in communications, I've done a lot of strategic planning. I've done a lot of kind of the little things like that, the less technical stuff. I could probably somehow merge that in. And I was fortunate enough to get past the insane USA Jobs wall.
That is a ridiculous wall to get through.
It really is. It really is. So I was fortunate about that and got the job. So now I'm working at the Department of Veterans Affairs doing strategic planning and program integration for the Office of Information Security. I probably should plug here that anything I say tonight is my opinion and not that of the department. This is all just me having a drink with these very cool guys here. So that's kind of my initial story, how I kind of got into it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of interesting because, some people find, like you said, WannaCry, right? That sparked your interest in it and kind of moving to the field. And then, there's others like myself who kind of grew up in it, who were like building computers or fixing computers at a young age and just kind of migrated with it into security from, that point on.
Yep.
But the point to that is it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your knowledge is at that time. You can learn anything. My father at 50 some years old got his degree in cybersecurity and now works in GRC. So it is very much one of those things where it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's all about your willingness and your drive to kind of make that switch. So
I agree.
I think it's something that you have to be willing, though, like you said, Adrian, and we talked earlier before we went live, it's one of those fields where you have to continuously keep learning. And if you don't have that drive to keep learning, then maybe it's not a field for you.
Right. And I mean, you kind of see it too, even with some of the older leaders across many organizations. They've all learned what they did early on. And some of them, I think, they kind of stop at a certain point. They're like, okay, I got this. I know everything. And then they kind of forget that there's all this new stuff going on outside of their organization where they've been for however long, decades, whatever. I just think that, not losing that is really a key as far as just continuing on. And even just when you're first getting into the field too.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And Eric, do you have anything to add to that? Because I feel like you as someone who works now as a virtual CISO or as a CISO, you're around other CISOs and talk to other CISOs. And so do you see that this lack of willingness to learn, the willingness to kind of grow with the field?
Well, Cyber Warrior as a CISO. No. Okay, so the reality is that's how you differentiate a good leader versus the boss. We've talked about that ad nauseum in all our channels. If you stop learning, you start dying. It's something that's very important, and a lot of people reach, like you just said, Adrian, they reach a certain level and they just don't want to learn anymore, or they don't want to keep up with their skills. A good leader knows that you have to continue to learn. I was talking to, actually, at the Republic of Hackers, we had a discussion today. The first computers and things that I had and worked on are all in museums. If I stopped working on that, we were talking about IBM's 5055s and VAX VMSs and Pascal and Fortran. That's actually what I learned in school. So if I had to stop learning, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So keep on learning, keep on getting your skills up. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you're doing. At the pace of change, things are changing year to year. So if you don't continue to learn, continue to support your knowledge and support your team to keep on learning. Doesn't matter if they're, 1 year in the environment, in cybersecurity, if they're 5 years, 10 years, never stop learning. This particular field is one that evolves every 12 months. It doubles. So
I think I heard somewhere that the half-life of IT knowledge is 18 months.
That's Moore's law. Moore's law says that every 18 months, the technology changes by half or by twice. Twice.
Doubles. Yeah, and that's one of those things. It's funny because I when I think about cybersecurity, I some people might get mad at me, but I correlate it a lot to being a doctor, because being a doctor, everything's constantly changing, whether you're a surgeon, an ER doctor, or whatever. So if anybody has ever watched Scrubs, and I'm going to bring this up because it was an episode that really caught my attention with this particular field.
Eagle.
Was, there was an episode where someone came on, and it was an older doctor who didn't keep up with the newer technology and the newer ways of doing medicine. So he had, JD, the main character, perform a procedure that was extremely dangerous, and they had gone well beyond that. But this older doctor did not go to the conferences, did not learn new things. So it really put both their careers in jeopardy. And he ended up being, told to leave the hospital at the end of the episode, and this, that, and the other. But, that's kind of how I feel about our field is once you hit security director or CISO, or even become a leader or manager, if you're not keeping up with the news and keeping up with the technology and honestly taking that time out of your schedule to learn it on your own, then you are going to fall behind. And there's Eric breaking the internet again. So look, if you're listening to this on podcast, because yes, this is an audio podcast also, understand you miss out on a lot of the fun with Eric.
Look at that green
not
screen.
watching
That's
on
great.
YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. So just be aware. But yeah, so you fall behind, and that is something that I've made very clear in a lot of the people that I talk to, is that we're already behind as defenders. Whether you're a red team or a blue teamer, you're behind the 8 ball because you're handcuffed. You have policy, procedure, contracts, regulations, all these things you have to follow. So you're handcuffed, and you only have like certain hours out of the day that you work and all these other things. Attackers aren't. They can have full teams run 24/7. Your networks are never safe. So, they don't have those restrictions. And a lot of times they have unlimited funding, especially when you look at your nation state attackers. They have an open checkbook. It's go get them. And so they're like, all right, I'm going to buy this domain. I'm going to set up this cloud service, and I'm just going to go at it. And they're like, okay, have fun.
The way that I like to say it is the attackers, red teams, or penetration testing, or attackers. Let's just go there. They don't have to stop to do a report. No. They don't have to stop to do HR work. So they can keep on going. And while we're doing all this overhead stuff that we should be doing other stuff and defending, that's how they have us.
And that's where a lot of your distraction comes into play. So knowing all that, because Adrian, you said you're still looking at getting into technical and you're doing a lot of conceptual work.
Yep.
Knowing all that, what part of that really drove you and do you feel like drives a lot of others to cybersecurity? Is it a mindset? Is it I want to be the savior? Is it more of that hero mentality? Like, what really do you think drives some of these people to get into cybersecurity?
That's an interesting question. Well, for me personally, it was just about getting into a field that was, just really, really big at the time. There were a lot of opportunities to do any number of things within this field. And, I think for me in particular, it was kind of that kind of savior mentality, like, oh, this is really cool. We can stop the bad guys, to sort of do, like those sort of activities, Eric. So I think it was partially that. It's partially, I think, for me personally, I was kind of in the middle of this sort of, I kind of saw a fork in the road for my career, and I was like, okay, well, I can continue to do this consultancy thing, and that will pay the bills. That would be cool. But also there's this other really cool thing that I could do. And even though I'm in my late 20s, I can figure this out. Right. And to your point too, just about, anyone can change course at any point. My dad's currently in a graduate program. He's 67 years old. He's currently in a graduate program for German right now. So like, it's cool that I kind of have him too to look at, be like, okay, well, he did this at, his age. I can do it at 30, and really anyone can do that. So yeah, I'd say cybersecurity really is for anybody who wants to just continue learning and continuing to grow. And it's just, if that's who you are, if that's your mentality, come on in. We need as many people as we can get,
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. The more we have, the better. And that's one of the things, and actually we talked about it last night on New Battlefields, is where diversity in stuff comes into play. So if you're not if you haven't watched New Battlefields after that show, if you're still early for you, go head over to Eric's YouTube channel and watch New Battlefields last night on diversity. It was actually a really, really good episode. And that's where the different mindsets come in. And I think, when you're looking at entering cybersecurity, wherever you're at in your career, some of the, and again, I'll bring up topics of last night, some of the gatekeeping and egos keep people out. So even though they find that they may enjoy it, they may like it, and it's something they want to do, it keeps them out. And because, as we talked about last night, being a woman in cybersecurity can be very difficult. You have a career or an institution that is generally men, and it's not necessarily all men that are keeping them out, but it's that fear. It's that fear of, oh, I'm entering a man's world. I'm doing something that is a man's job, which isn't the case, and it should never be the case. But that's part of the mentality. So they kind of shy away from doing something that they may really enjoy doing. And let's be honest, as someone who grew up with mostly women, and my wife especially, who puts me in my place a lot, they think differently than us. They analyze and can and multitask in ways that a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men can't. We do not analyze data and information the same way they do. So it's something that if you're keeping anybody out of any race, religion, creed, gender, whatever, you're truly missing out. And I think that this elitism, this I'm better than, has to stop, because it's keeping so many good people out of sight.
Yeah. Well, and you hit on something I wanted to touch on here tonight also, which is I've been so fortunate to have people, not just my mentor who was the former CISO, but even people I've met. I mean, people joke about meeting people on Twitter and stuff like that, but like I reached out to Alyssa Miller one day after she gave a talk, because I asked a question during the session. She answered it, but I wanted a little bit of clarity on what she had to say. I was like, you know what? Worst thing that happens is she just never answers my Twitter DM, right? So I sent her a clarifying question. I was like, hey, you talked about this. I was really interested about this. What? And I asked, like, can you clarify this? Like, what would you suggest I do in this situation? And she responded, and I was like, I personally have been met with nothing but positivity in this, and I know people have met gatekeepers. They have met those who maybe have told them that it's not the right place for them, that they don't belong. That's just not true. To them, I'd say keep going. Keep trying to find the right people who will tell you that you belong, and really just keep at it, because again, we need as many people as we need, and also everyone belongs here.
And right? I full-heartedly believe that. And one of the things that I've said in the past, people talk about companies keeping them out, right? Regardless of reason, they can come up with a reason. They can say it's some type of discrimination, and it happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but what I tell them is, then go to a different company, because you didn't want to be there anyways.
Exactly.
And I think we look at this and we want to blame these companies for the way things are. And yes, the way those things are ran, it is their fault. But instead of dwelling on it and making it a point of contention and saying nobody's ever going to, take me in, nobody's going to give me a shot, keep looking, keep at it, because there are companies out there, there are people out there that are going to give you your shot. They're going to give you your chance. And you got to quit looking at the negatives. And I talk about it on Mondays almost all the time. It's all about your mindset and being positive. And if you're going to be positive and believe you can do it, if you know you can do it, if you keep at it, it's going to happen. And I know Eric is laughing at things in the YouTube chat, which is hilarious. I brought a few of them up, but
you're right. You're right. I mean,
infinite is. Oh, never mind. I see. You saw it. Okay, that was funny.
Oh, I see that now. Oh my God. All right.
So I'm going to be a little serious here. So cybersecurity as a whole, and information security is a microcosm of the world. Okay, you've got your good people, you've got your bad people, you've got your good companies, you've got your bad companies. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. And the reality is, right now, as a cybersecurity professional, even as a person that's entering the field, you are in charge. There's a report that by the end of this year, there's going to be over 500,000 vacancies. And I can tell you, in my day job today, we did a review of the opening positions in my divisions. We have 950 openings in my division. Okay, we have one account that has 35 vacancies. Okay, so as a cybersecurity professional, you're in charge. The challenge that we have is that we have a lot of people. We're in a position right now where we have the people that have been in for a long time and are still doing things the old way. and then we have other people that have adapted to this new world. And I'll describe what I mean with the old ways. I had an interview a couple years ago, and somebody told me we need 10 years experience in this particular tool. That tool the company hadn't even been in existence for 5 years. So I looked at the person that was interviewing me, and I said, "Can you open your browser right there and find when that company was built?" And when he looked, he said 5 years, and I said, "Well, you're looking for a 10-year person here." So this job descriptions, you've got a lot of places where they're looking for what we call purple unicorns. They want a 3-year person with 10 years experience, with this experience and that experience and this, and you're like, how am I going to get that experience? So, we have a lot to change in the industry, but we also have a lot of need in the industry. So we're in a good transitional and transformational time in this industry. The other thing that I will bring for you guys to discuss is the term cybersecurity. When you tell somebody how, do you want to work in cybersecurity? That's so broad. There are 20, 30 different career fields that you can get into. GRC, vulnerability, red teaming, blue teaming, firewalls, and the list goes on and on
Risk
and on.
assessment. Yep.
So when we go and we tell people, what do you want to do in cybersecurity? They don't even know all the different paths that they can take. So we have to change a little bit the language that we're doing.
I think you're totally right, Eric. And another point I'd like to make on top of that is, I was very fortunate to have a manager who saw my potential. He looked at my background. He said, this guy doesn't have much cybersecurity experience. He's got experience in, XYZ things that meet what this position needs. But I see his potential, right? And I think, that's one of those things that you can't put a metric towards. And it takes a manager, it takes somebody with this sort of emotional IQ, the EQ, right? That looks at somebody and says, okay, I'm interviewing this person. I can see they've got it. Let's hire them. Let's see how it goes. And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And it really does kind of just take that as well.
It does. And I will say this, depending on how big the company is, you have those options. There are some companies that will never take a chance. Then you have others that are willing to. And it all depends on where they're at in their progression, right? So some of your smaller organizations, and people get so mad about it, but some of your smaller organizations can't afford the time to train people. They just can't. They can't.
Right.
They're still trying to make sure they have revenue and everything coming in that they can, keep the business running and make money and eventually bring people in. Then there's other companies that flat out refuse. I won't lie about it. They flat out refuse to train people. They want, like Eric said, they want their purple unicorns that just do whatever.
Put the StudioSec message up.
I think those managers willing to take those kinds of hiring risks to develop someone that's new don't generally exist in larger companies. Is that true?
False.
Yeah.
There are all types of managers in big, medium, small companies.
Yep.
And so while bigger companies have some borders, you go to a big 4 company, you are required to have a bachelor's degree and some other certifications. If you don't have that, HR does not allow you to hire. So in that case, those hiring managers have a problem doing that. Okay. In medium-sized companies and smaller companies, again, you've got the old-fashioned managers that you match the job description 10 for 10. Okay. Or you've got the ones that will look at you and say, does this person have the ability to learn? So maybe you're not a 10 for 10. Maybe you're a 7 of 10, but can he learn the other 30%? And yes, those managers exist in all different companies.
And the one thing I will say for anybody who is considering a career in cybersecurity is understand this. If a company is looking for a senior, it's for a reason. It's what they need. If it's labeled in their job description, senior consultant or level 3 consultant, whatever the case may be. If they put out they're looking for a junior, you will find that they will take a chance on just about anybody, because at that junior level, they're looking to train. They know they're going to have to train you. But with that, keep in mind salary. If it is a smaller organization, do not expect them to pay you $120,000 a year when they are like a 15-man company. It's not going to happen at a junior level. And you're going to find that even at larger organizations, they have these boundaries on pay. But I think that a lot of people expect as a junior to be making 6 figures because, oh, I'm cybersecurity, I can determine my salary. If you have experience, yes, you can. You can pick and choose, and you can find your way and find the company that's going to pay you top dollar. Yeah. But keep in mind, if you're just looking for money, you may not like the company you work for, because you're going to go to a company that's willing to pay you top dollar, and then you're just a number. You're not an actual person.
That happened to me just recently. I chased the money. I went in, took a CISO role in a company, and unfortunately, I was getting paid really good money, but I hated my life every day. I was in a company where I wasn't a good fit, and 2 years later, I was gone. I left that company. So do not chase the money will come. Yeah. Chase your passion.
Yeah.
Chase your passion, love what you do, and look, you'll land in a company that you really love it, and like they say, it will not feel like work. Exactly. You feel like you're part of a family. When you get that, hold on tight.
Yeah. And I will say this, don't knock a smaller organization or a smaller company. Don't think just because you're getting paid less or they can't afford to pay you what you feel you're worth, that you're not valued. Because understand, if that company is growing, they're going to put a lot of incentives in the future, and they're going to make things better for you, and they're going to be able to do things if you show them value, if you show them that they're going to make money by you being there. I think
you also might get to do more too.
Exactly.
You also might get to do more.
Yes, very much so. So I definitely think that, we kind of put so much value on ourselves. And don't get me wrong, with the amount of education and learning that goes into this career field, yes, you are highly valued, and yes, you're worth a lot of money to a lot of companies. But do not undervalue the atmosphere that you're going to work for. And I say again, larger organizations, Fortune 500s and things like that, you're nothing but a damn number. You are simply a resource, and they will let you go as quick as they hired you. Actually, even quicker, because to hire you, you had to go through a background check, 10 interviews, and everything else. But to let you go, it takes one meeting with HR, and you're out the door.
Have a nice day.
Yeah. So do not hesitate to look at a small company and take less of a paycheck to actually learn and grow. And if you grow with a company, you get a lot more out of it. I'll be honest, you do. You get a lot more out of growing with a company because you've been there. You've seen their struggles. You've been there through the good and the bad, and they're willing to value you.
Yeah. I want to go back to one thing you said, Derek, about the, not dwelling on failure. Because I think that's something I see a lot, I'm scrolling through Twitter or whatever else, or conversations I have with people is, they'll say, oh man, I failed. Doesn't that suck? And I'm like, yes, it does. There's no question that sucks. But what are you going to do now? Like, what are you going to do with that failure? And it took me, so I'll be a little honest here. I'm quite the perfectionist in most things I do. And studying for the Security Plus exam, I was met with failure after failure after failure in my studying. I was just like, I can't get it. But I had to face it. You know, I had to be like, okay, I'm new in this. I don't understand the concepts that well. I got to just get through it. And I think that really, for lack of a better phrase, like it toughens you up, right? I mean, it really makes you, see how much you want it, how much you want to get into something, right? And I think that's just one other thing that really it takes a lot to get into, and people need to be ready for that too, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And again, look, I keep relating to other videos I did because the fact is I talk about a lot of these things on a lot of different videos. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did one, and it was by I want to say it was William Churchill, but I could be wrong. But failure is not fatal. You're not going to die if you fail. You can keep going. And success is not final. So just because you hit one goal and you've succeeded at one thing, it's not the end. And the end of your life, the end of your success does not come until you're dead and in the grave. Once you're 6 feet under, then you can consider your life a success or a failure. But until then, nothing will kill you. Your success now does not lead to success in the future, because you have to realize that you can make 1,000 good decisions, but one bad decision can destroy everything. And that's what people have in their mind, is that one bad decision. And you can completely take into account everything we see on Twitter. Somebody can be an ally all along the way and make one wrong statement, and now all of a sudden all those bridges are burned. Mm-hmm. And you see it all the time in society. So understand that just because you've succeeded this far, one mistake, you'll have to rebuild. So success is not the end. That what you hit one major milestone, okay, great. Keep going, keep learning, keep growing, keep being a better person, and keep improving on what you know.
And I tell everybody, fail equals first attempt in learning. Okay, first attempt in learning. Remember that. Okay, and the second thing is, and this is why you have to subscribe to Cyber Warrior Studios, so you can get Motivation Mondays. So go ahead and click that button right there, subscribe, like, and follow these channels.
Yeah, definitely. And
That's why I'm here
Eric.
for.
I love But at the end of the day, it's true. Look, we talk a lot, and on Security Happy Hour, it's all about letting loose and being able to talk about the real issues and talk about anything. And honestly, I'm not monetized, so I don't give a fuck what I say, and YouTube can't do shit to me. So who the fuck cares? But the reality of it is that no matter what you do in life, you can always succeed. You can always overcome. It's all in your mindset. So is cybersecurity right for you? Honestly, it's on you to make that decision. It is truly on you. Do you want to be in a field that constantly requires you to learn and grow and be a better person? Because that's what it takes. You have to get out of your mindset, this single-minded.
I want to be a better person.
You have to get out of this single-mindedness and these unconscious biases that we all have, and you really have to be cognizant of your thought process. I love it, Eric. Keep changing your
background changes are
doing
great.
it like the whole
Keep
time.
doing that. This is great.
But you have to get out of these unconscious biases, because we all have them. Everybody does. I don't care who you are. You have them, and really choose. And it's on you. When people come to me, and by all means, I love being a mentor. I truly do. I love seeing others succeed. But they're always, a lot of the questions come back to, well, where do I start learning cybersecurity? Or where do I start learning this, that, or the other? And my first question is, well, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. There it is.
Pulls out Dancing Granny.
He said he was going to do it.
That's for you, Granny Button.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I think I think that we have a lot to do. And I love this comment. And John made it. I think the propensity to jump to blocking or locking people out of discourse cuts off the possibility of understanding at the knees. Some of us have a penchant of being misinterpreted, often me. And it's true in society today, and I see it so much on Twitter.
I was going to say social media doesn't make that much easier.
No,
you know, because there's no space for nuance.
There's not, and there's always this. I don't want to hear different thoughts or hear opinions that are different than mine. They put themselves in an echo chamber. So instead of discussing, they jump to arguing and causing drama. And it's not a civil discussion at that point. You know, I literally cut myself off. I quit. I didn't block anybody, but I jumped out of a conversation altogether because it was a conversation about something about schools. And I said, I think all religions should be taught in schools. Not a religion, all religions. I think you should be taught everybody's culture. I think everybody, that way you have an understanding of where everybody's coming from and learning. And I said the worst thing that happened to the school system was one person taking Christianity out of schools. And it wasn't so much the fact that they took Christianity out, it was that they did it because they were offended. And I hate the whole I'm offended about everything culture. But it was more so, instead of saying we should teach everything, they said you should teach my way. You should only teach science. You should only teach this way because this is the right way. Look, teach all cultures and beliefs. That's the way it should be. And have a conversation. And that's where a lot of these things get better, is when you have a conversation. Eric is like straight, like
he's going for it over there. Yeah.
But I think that's what we're so afraid to do, is have the conversation. What would make things better? And I get, if we all thought the same, it would be great. Don't get me wrong. But we don't. We're human beings. So when it comes to cybersecurity, let's really have conversations with people and quit blocking other thought processes out. Let's actually discuss with them why they feel what they feel, why they think the way they think. And I think that goes a long way.
And how are we going to solve problems if we all think the same? If everybody thought and said the same thing all the time, no one's going to solve the problems. You know, I mean, I'm met constantly every day with, you know, someone on my team saying, well, let's, you know, that's a good idea, but maybe we could try it this other way. Or, you know, I mean, we don't exist in a vacuum, certainly.
But we want to, so many people want to. They want to live in an echo chamber where everybody thinks the exact same way they do. My way is the right way, and that's the only way. And that's not reality.
Right.
Reality is you will have somebody who doesn't agree with everything you agree with, right? They may agree with 90%, but this other 10%, they're kind of like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, the moment you point out you don't agree with maybe 10% of it, they're like, oh, I don't like you, I got to block you.
With that too, though, I think it's the way it's done sometimes, right? I mean, if you just come out and say, you're wrong, this is stupid, I can't believe that, you lose in the conversation because you're not trying to have an actual conversation. If you say,
Adrian, take a look at this comment, because
Sarah, what's up, Sarah?
Confirmation bias and cancel culture cancels the opportunity for retribution, learning, and change.
Yes. And
this is so true. We so much want to cancel people and block them and think we are the only way we are, and we're going to stay this way, and it has to be this way, without realizing that there are other ways of thinking. There are reasons people believe things they believe. And in cybersecurity, especially, you have to think like the opposition. If you are a blue teamer, if you're a red teamer, it doesn't matter. You have to think like the opposition. As a red teamer, your job is to think like an attacker who is going to do everything within their power to abuse your system. As a blue teamer, you have to think like an attacker because you have to find all the ways that someone may abuse your system. And as GRC, you have to find ways to implement policies where there's not too many exceptions. Because let's be honest, companies always want to come up with an exception to policy because the system's 10 years old and I can't replace it. Well, why not? Give me a reason. And it better be a damn good reason. But so many companies are willing to sign off on the risk and be like, all right, cool, they're good to go.
And two things. So Sarah, so first, Adrian, Sarah earlier in the stream said hello to you and you completely ignored her.
Well, okay? I was too focused. I'm sorry, Sarah.
Okay.
Hello.
And number two, Sarah's comment deserves Dancing Granny.
I agree.
There you go.
There you go. Dancing Granny for you, Sarah.
for you, sir. Okay.
So John put this up. The insularity is the equivalent of repression in the national imaginary collective psyche. Insurrections are examples of catharsis gone wrong. I cannot disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
That's very deep, Mr. John.
John does come out very deep quite often. I watched him on your
Nice.
stream last night. I watched his comments. He comes out very deep, and I love it.
Yeah, I just think, again, I'll go back to what I said before, which is it's the way in which you want to disagree, right? I mean, you can disagree with me all day, but don't call me names. Don't come out and say I'm dead wrong. All because it just doesn't. Do it politely, and we can have a conversation. But if you don't do that, then you've lost all goodwill, and you're
And I
at
think
that
so
point,
much.
frankly.
I think so much of that keeps people out of cybersecurity. And again, based on the topic of this show tonight, I'm going to bring it back to that because I think so much of the vileness in the vitriol that is spewed online keeps people away from cybersecurity. And the reality of it is, we are a society where when we don't have facts to back up the way we feel, we immediately go into defense mode and start just attacking people. And
nowadays,
we do different things.
Make it up.
Yeah.
It's misinformation and disinformation.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have it, you go ahead and find that confirmation bias that you find somewhere online. You find this. It might not be true, but it confirms what you were saying. So to you now it becomes truth.
And I think we see a lot of that. And again, I don't like to get the political, but we see so many online medias that are very far to both sides.
Life is political. You got to touch on it a little bit,
You have to, because they're very far to both sides. When you're looking at a lot of the confirmation bias today, it is very political. It is very much, I want you to think the way I think. And with the way the U.S. was in the last year, it became very political. Things that should have never been political became political. And if you look at this site, they will always side with the left. If you look at this site, they will always side with the right. So then people started using those sites as their basis for fact. And when you do that, you lose your basis, because you can't look at one site that is always left leaning and be like, oh, this is my basis for fact and how I think what I think, and then look at one site.
The middle is dangerous right now. You can't be normal.
No.
I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, it being incumbent on the person to want to keep learning and growing. It's incumbent on the person to find other information out there, to really do their own research and figure out, well, is what I think true, or is what I think right?
Yes.
And we've lost a lot of that because, like you said, this site says this site says that. I'm going to keep going to that one because it's that confirmation bias. You continue on with that.
But there's a bigger challenge to that. Is people are, I guess, and we were talking about it. We talked about all of this yesterday in our show on misinformation and disinformation. Actually, Wednesday's shows and yesterday's show, we talked about it. The challenge I see is the education, and not the education of what's happening here, what's happening there, is the critical thinking and researching education, because everybody goes, just because it's on Twitter or Facebook or
Google. Let's be honest, even going on Google, you're going to go to the first site, and that first site is usually an ad, and whoever's paying money.
Correct. So long story short is thinking critical. Okay. The organizations that used to be sources of truth have now become politicized to the point where we used to believe in science, because science doesn't believe in anything else. It's truth. Okay. But
once
now
you get the fact, you've got a few steps before truth, but yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Stop.
Scientific process.
I'm in a scientific process. Okay. So we used to think organizations, we used to, know that if it was a scientific fact that has been proven by hypothesis and testing,
There you go.
There it is.
we used to believe that. Now people are looking at that and saying stupid stuff like, oh, well, that was paid by the pharmaceutical, or that was paid by NASA, or it's like, wait a second. The world is a globe. Sorry, flat earthers. It's a globe.
You're right.
But look at what's happening
You
right
heard it
now.
here first. The world is a globe.
My
Breaking news.
My favorite tweet, the Flat Earther Society is all over the globe.
There it is.
That was true. That actually showed up.
There it is.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, and that truly deserves.
Wait.
Oh, it deserves.
Why can you never get it right the first time, Eric? You're killing
I'm
me.
not
folks.
using my stream deck. But that deserves dancing grandma.
Dancing Granny.
Yes. Yes.
But yes, it is true. And it is very much, us in cybersecurity. And here's the difference though. And Eric, again, topic talked about last night. Cybersecurity, computer science is not a science. It's an art form.
Yep.
It is very much an art form. So I think that is where a lot of us in cybersecurity get lost in the science, because we don't necessarily have a scientific mind. We have an artful mind. We see things differently and view things differently. But I think with that, it goes back to the vitriol that is spewed by people, where you see things differently because your mind interprets art in a different way than others. Now, all of a sudden, you're evil. You don't see things the way I do. And that is something that I think in this community we have to get away from.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that would give a lot of people more value in the field. I think that would bring a lot more people to the field if we taught it as an art. If we got to the younger schools where they're like, oh, you're going to do STEM and it's going to be it's a science. No, the fuck it's not. It's an art.
Put my thing up. Put my thing up.
All cyber matters. That's right. Well, you hit it there, right? I mean, we have to. When I first came on, I'm like, God, I got a political science background. How am I going to make this transition? 9 times out of 10,
he did the political transition right there. So
yeah, 9 times out of 10, I've used a lot of the stuff that I learned then, like the critical thinking and all that, for stuff that I'm doing in cybersecurity now. I mean, someone with a psychology background is going to have a heck of a lot of easier time figuring out social engineering than I am, right? So it's about reaching out to these people and saying, what you do currently could help in this other realm. Here's how you can do it. In my opinion, that's how it is.
And Sarah's working on another dancing grandma here. Okay.
Yeah, she does. She does that a lot.
Here you go. We actually discussed this topic in the last 2 shows as well. But there are some politics that have invaded the workforce. Yes, there are. Okay. Are we seeing new barriers to entry that didn't exist before? No, I think that they're being exacerbated by the world as we see it right now. But it's changing. It's changing a lot because you've got new organizations like, Women in Cyber, Blacks in Cyber. I don't know if Kalila is still here. TechSec Chicks. And we have other organizations that are putting the message out. We just started Raíces Cyber, Hispanic Association in Cybersecurity, so that we can enhance that. There was a report that came out last week where women are showing as 24% of the cybersecurity force right now. Hispanics are showing as 4%, Asian as 8%, and American Indian or Native natives are 1%, and blacks are 9% of the racial and ethnic diversity. So there are some issues that still exist for that complete inclusion in cybersecurity. And I'm just speaking of the cybersecurity workforce. But there's other people that are bringing this message into the different organizations, and that is starting to take root. Um, the technical barriers to entry, we've talked about it. There's a lot of, well, I won't say a lot of, but there are your gatekeepers out there, people who say, if you don't, and I'm talking cybersecurity pure, if you don't look like me, if you don't have the same type of experiences in the field, then you might not be a good fit here.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers are very shameful, like John is saying. This is the inclusion of women and minorities and disadvantaged minorities is ridiculous. So those are kind of the things. But as an entry level, mid-level career person, um, I always believe that one of the best things that you can do for yourself is networking. And knowing who's there, who's your ally, who are people that you know in the industry. Um, while I'm going to say, Adrian, while Twitter and social media can be toxic, on the other side, it builds a community. It
Oh,
builds
yes.
community.
No
Like you
question.
said, I was going to make a joke about Alyssa because she's a good friend.
She is. I love
She's the
Alyssa.
best.
But sometimes.
But here's the
He's
thing,
watching.
and
You'll get me later.
to
That's
talk
right.
about politics, and Sarah said sorry for all the questions because she didn't expect us to talk politics.
Wait.
I know where she's getting at with this question. And
There she
does
is.
deserve the dancing granny. Here's my take on it. Politics and religion have always been frowned upon. Talking about in the workforce. With social media, making your political leanings known and making where you fall in any spectrum known, yes, it can be a barrier. We have seen people fired over their leanings, and we have seen people fired over simple statements. And so getting hired by making your political affiliation known can be just as hard, because if you get involved with a company that is to either side of the spectrum, can be very difficult, or it can give them a bad name. So, for instance, let's just say, for example, in the last 4 years before Biden got elected, you were a strong supporter of Trump. You were very much in good company with a lot of organizations out there that were like, oh, I'm going to support our president and this, that, and the third. But if you stayed a supporter after Biden got elected, and these companies, let's be honest, these companies do a lot of marketing. And so they're going to flip their affiliation to whoever's in office and whatever the strongest marketing capability is. Not necessarily truly what they believe, but they're going to flip and support whatever the vast majority is supporting. So your support, if it continues, can very easily get you fired.
I survived 20 years in Washington, D.C. as a consultant.
Wow.
So
I barely made it 7.
But the point is, though, your political affiliation can get you fired or hired.
Mm-hmm.
It really can. It's unfortunate, but especially if you start being vicious online and saying things in defense of things that are false, then yes, it will get you either stopped from being hired or it'll get you fired.
I think
so, very easily.
I think to Sarah's question, the politics have always been there. They just haven't been as in our face as they have been over the past several years, right? And so now that they're out in the open, people are being they're way more cognizant of it. They're way more open with it. And it's something that, I don't know, for better or for worse, some people are doing better with it. Some people aren't. And it's just another one of those things.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where, you know, breaking into cyber is hard. Is cybersecurity right for you? It depends. It really
Yep.
depends. It depends on who
Studio
you are.
Tech, I'm just going to say the answer, yes.
Yes.
Ah, yep.
Yes.
All right, so we'll put it up here.
Nope.
So we're gonna say yes.
Nope. You need to yes. That's the answer.
I'm gonna leave it up because the fact is, it's true. Personal conduct over political leaning. Your personal conduct determines
Yes.
whether or not you get hired or fired somewhere.
Mhm.
It is how you present yourself in all aspects of your life. And if people know who you are online, then yes, your personal conduct will get you fired and or get you hired.
I think I kind of hit on that earlier, which was if you want to disagree with me, that's fine, but don't come and yell at me about it.
Yes.
Right? Your personal conduct in that interaction matters. If you come to me and say, I respectfully disagree, here's why, XYZ, fine. If you come and say, you look stupid, your headphones are broken, oops, over here, then I'm going to say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, and that goes back to, and here's the sad part, and we're coming to the top of the hour here in a few minutes, but the sad part is in what I see with a lot of women creators, and I see it all the time. I follow Shannon Morse. I follow her on Twitter. I'm on her Discord because I support her in every way I can because I think she puts out amazing content. I see her get a lot of hate in comments like, oh, your hair is, you know, it shouldn't be rainbow. It drives people away. Men don't want to watch this. They're not attracted to that. Look, let's be honest and let's be fair. A, men are attracted to all different types of people. And B, most men that are intelligent care about the content she puts out, not the way she looks. But you see so many women get hate over the way they look or what is in their background or the way things are. And it is very upsetting to see because when I support someone, I'm not supporting someone based on looks. I'm supporting people based on the content they provide. And if I feel like I'm getting value and knowledge from it.
I'm hurt.
And
You told me you supported me because I looked great.
I lied. I love you, Eric. I love you.
Oh, man.
Eric's a good friend of mine. Don't get it twisted. We're vets.
Oh, he's walking away.
But you know, one of the reasons I had Shannon on my show on episode, I think it was 2 or 3, is I think that she provides very valuable content to the community. I think she is a very upstanding person that does a lot of good to the community, and she has for years, ever since ThreatWire and Hack5 and everything else like that. And she does so much more now. And so I think when we talk about good people in the community, when we talk about Alyssa Miller, we talk about Shannon Morse, we talk about these people, it is because of the fact that they do so many great things and are willing to help. What sucks is when they're abused. And by abused, I mean not necessarily in judgment, because people judge people all the time and it kind of sucks, but it happens. It's more I'm going to judge you because you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to judge you because of all these little things. And if you are following someone based on the way they look, get the hell out. You don't need to be there.
Yep.
Now, mind you, I've thought about doing this show shirtless. Maybe it would get me more women viewers, but then I got a dad bod, so I'd have to get the ones that really like dad bods. But at the end of the day, I truly think that we need to support each other. And when you look at the good people in industry, you look at the people that are always there to support. Shannon has always supported me. I called her out on an episode, and she flat out commented on the video and was like, "Hey, I watch your show." I was like, "Oh shit, she does!" Holy hell! Like, I did. I love Shannon. Me and her go around. I've been on her Q&As. I've done all these things, and Alyssa is another one. She's been on the show. She's always, if I had an issue with a friend or whatever, she's been there to be like, "Hey, I'll do what I can." And there's so many more. Studio Sec is another one. Look, I'm going to go down the list of creators right now, just because if you're looking to get into cybersecurity, these are the people you want to talk to. Alyssa Miller, Studio Sec, Shannon Morse, Kim Crawley, Philip Wiley, Infinite Logins, Makeshift, Republic of Hackers, Eric Bellardo, Devil Ray Pen
DJ
Testing,
Alpha, Ty,
Ty Wilson, DJX
Dating
Alpha.
System.
Dude, there's so many out there that will support you and help you and guide you and be mentors for you. If you're looking for a female, go look for a female. There's many, many women out there that will support you. If you're looking for a male, for whatever reason, myself, Eric, Studio Sec, Caleb, Devil Ray Pen Testing. Look, we love to mentor people. Ty Wilson.
I'm
Look,
happy
you
to
wanna talk
talk to
about
anybody
veterans?
coming out. I'm happy to talk to anybody about just entering the field.
Exactly. You want to
Hit
talk
me
about
up.
you want to talk about
And
how
we will put the list later on, or you can reach us on Twitter or
Mhm.
on Twitter. Reach us on Twitter, and we can give you the list.
check out my Follow Fridays. Like, legitimately, if you here, I'll put it up for you right now on the banner. Follow me on Twitter. My Follow Fridays have just about everybody that will always do whatever they can to support and help you.
True.
They will mentor you. They will guide you. They will do whatever they can. If they don't have the information, they will give you the person that can truly give you that information. Because one thing we have learned in this field is that we don't know everything. And if somebody tells you they do, they are not a mentor that you want.
Hi,
Because
Sarah.
you don't. They will find the person that specializes in that industry. And look, Infinite Improbability AI is a friend of mine. He's an Army veteran. I served with him, and he is somebody that I look highly upon, who has very much helped me. And if you are looking for somebody in the community that you can reach out to him, reach out to Eric, reach out to myself, reach out to Adrian over here, reach out to any of us. Look, it's there. The ability is there to find someone that will support you and help you. And I think that if you do that, you will understand that this community, as vitriol as it can be, as drama ridden as it can be, is very much still willing to help you. So if you're looking to get into cybersecurity,
It's
if
for
you're
you.
wondering if it's a career for you, it is. You just have to believe it, and you just have to be willing to learn.
Here. Oh, dancing grandma.
Dancing granny for the end. And I will say this, look, if you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't hit that bell to be notified anytime I go live or drop a new video, go ahead and do that. CyberWarriorStudios.com is where you can go to find all the ways you can support me, where you can buy merchandise like this awesome hoodie for Security Happy Hour, and as well as many other things. And if you're not yet following RiceCyber.org on Twitter, go ahead and do that and head to the website, ricecyber.org, and you can find all the ways that you can support an amazing cause, an amazing, amazing organization. And I will see you all next time.
Thanks, guys.